Okay, so as you can probably tell by the title, today we're going to be talking about all the things you should definitely not do once you are under contract on a house and you are applying for a loan and you're in the middle of that process. Hey, my name is Glenise Johnson, the artsy realtor, and I just realized up until this point, all the videos I've done this far, that I don't go by my YouTube name. I'm the artsy realtor because I'm an artist and a realtor. I'm lame for that. But yes, it's the artsy realtor, Glenise Johnson. I'm an artist and a realtor with artformhomes, brokered by eXp Realty, and I'm serving in the greater Birmingham area. So we're gonna go over these 7 deadly sins. I thought the name was cute, so I just want to put that on there. But these are just things that you really should 100% avoid doing. The reason being is because when you're in the middle of that loan process, those underwriters can be very finicky, very picky, and it's a very delicate situation. I always tell my buyers, just no sudden financial movements, because these things could possibly slow down your process or derail it altogether, because you need letters of explanation and thorough investigation of every single little thing that changes with your financial situation. So let's get into these sins. So deadly sin number 1, and I'm gonna be we're gonna do a whole thou shall not thing. I really should have called it commandments, but anywho. So deadly sin number 1, thou shall not make any major purchases. Now this is kind of, it may feel obvious. Definitely you shouldn't be buying a car while you're trying to buy a house. It's just a lot. You're taking on more debt. But also I would say the thing that may be more tempting and you may not realize it's also a big deal is just large pieces of furniture. Most of the time those things, they have it set up to where you are financing those. So that's a added debt to your debt to income ratio, can throw everything off. And of course you're thinking, oh, I want to get furniture, I'm buying a house, let's go ahead and purchase the furniture. That way by the time we're moved in, we get ready to furnish it. Understandable, but you should not be making any major purchases until after you have closed, because any of those things, especially things that need to be financed like furniture that add to your debt to income ratio, you definitely got to be mindful of that. So no major purchases until the closing date. All right, so deadly sin number 2, thou shall not quit your job or change your employment for any reason. Okay, keep in mind that your employment status, what it is when you started, is probably the reason you were able to get that pre-approval letter and be eligible by that point. So you don't need to change that in the middle of the process, because that changes everything. So now your status, what it was that made you eligible and pre-approved to be able to get that money, is not the same anymore. And also should be known that a lot of times lenders will check the day before you close to verify that you still work at the places that that's on your file that you are employed at. So you do not need to change your job for any reason. I know you may be dealing with a job situation where like, I'm done with this, I'm through, I got something else in the pipeline, I'm ready to go. Don't do it till after you close. So yes, do not change your job or employment. All right, deadly sin number 3. I got notes, I'm looking down. Deadly sin number 3, thou shall not make large cash deposits into your bank accounts. Okay, so other than your paycheck, granted they know about your paycheck, but don't make any other large cash deposit. Now you could be thinking, okay, well, I need to bring money to the closing table and it needs to be this lump sum, when I come to the closing table, have a check or wire order for this amount. And usually you get a closing disclosure, let you know how much you're going to be bringing to the closing table. You may be thinking, well, how do I get that in there? I need to deposit into the account so I can make the check and bring it to the closing table. Your lender should be able to guide you on how to do this appropriately, so that's not disrupted. I am not a lender, so I do not know how that works, but they should be able to tell you how to get that done appropriately so nothing is disturbed. Now, this is also another reason I'm always saying save aggressively for this process, because if you already have that money securely placed in your account where it doesn't need to be moved, then you're a little bit better off. And honestly, it's not an ideal situation for you to be in the middle of a contract, in the middle of a process, and you're kind of scraping and ripping and running trying to gather the money to have for the closing table. That's not an ideal situation. Granted, it can be what it is. It is what it is. If that's what you got going on, it's what you got going on. But it's not ideal. It could probably cause it definitely will cause a lot of stress, but it could also lend itself to some complications with the loan process, because your financial situation is kind of fluctuating throughout that, and that's not something that needs to be happening. So it's not ideal. So strive to not have that happening. Save aggressively. All right, so cardinal rule. Deadly sin number 4. Thou shalt not open or close credit lines. Definitely don't close any. Because again, like with your employment, those credit lines are probably the reason you are, in that good standing, eligible, got pre-approved, and are able to apply for this loan in the first place. So don't close the line. The thing that's set up in your credit report that shows that why you are, eligible for this loan, because then of course, like your employment, it changes everything. It changes the complete status. It can pause, it can derail, it can halt the whole process altogether. Do not close any credit lines. And I know in the mindset you're thinking you wanted to kind of clear out some debt. Wherever you are at the beginning of that process, like I told my buyers, hold what you got. Don't move, don't do nothing. Just get through the process, close, and then do all that financial maneuvering, okay? All right, deadly sin number 5. Now this is a little bit more self-explanatory, but deadly sin number 5, thou shalt not pay bills late. Again, self-explanatory. You really should not be paying any bills late and you're in the process, a financial process, because of course, the investigation of whether you were paying your bills late is what went into that credit report to determine you were eligible for the loan in the first place, right? But I can, from an understandable place, I can understand like you're in the middle of your rent situation, for instance, your lease is about to be up. And I've come in contact with a lot of buyers that tend to have kind of a crappy, leasing office situation where they just real petty and real just not accommodating. And you'd be like, well, to hell with them. I'm about to be out, I'm about to buy my house, I can afford to break the lease. I prepared ahead of time. I get buyers that are like that. They're like, look, I can just break the lease. We're good. Some people like that. But I would advise don't not pay your bills until you close. Like, don't do it until you close. But again, I can understand that. That's something where that would apply to this, where it's not as self-explanatory, because that's just a unique situation. You're getting ready to move. They're being unreasonable. You'd be like, well, I'm out. So I get that. All right, so deadly sin number 6, thou shalt not co-sign someone else's purchase or lease at all. I've said in a previous video that that's no small thing to ask someone to co-sign something for you. That's not a small thing. Definitely don't do it. It impacts your credit, just like all of these other sins. It alters everything within that process, and it can slow it down, it can halt it, all that. It impacts your credit. Don't do it. It's not small. Just don't do it. All right, and the last one, deadly sin number 7, thou shalt not ignore questions from your lender. And honestly, you'd be like, well, why would I do that? But some people may be uncomfortable because at the end of the day, the lender is going to get in your business. That's just, it is what it is. You cannot go throughout this process and get to the point where you are owning a home and you've closed on a home it's being financed without a lender really getting up in your business. That's the brunt of that, or the bulk of that. I don't know what word I'm using. The bulk of that happens at the beginning with the pre-approval process, where they're asking for all of your information, your W-2s, your tax, forms, employment, all of that. They get in your business. So don't ignore any questions. Don't hide anything. Don't allow something crazy to come up and you knew that it was gonna come up, because it's just gonna derail the process, right? So just be transparent, be open, don't ignore questions. Just keep that communication open, okay? All right, so that's it for all of these sins. Check out the video I posted last week on navigating inspections, because this is the lending part of the process. Navigating inspections is something that's happening in that escrow period. That's important to kind of, feel your way through and know how best to conduct yourself, because we're in a buyer beware state in Alabama, and so the onus is on you to do your due diligence and make sure you're not purchasing a money pit or something that's going to have some repairs needed that are going to put you in a hole after closing. And so I kind of talk about all those things, especially also in this seller's market, how to navigate yourself to pursue a win-win situation for you and the seller, to not be too aggressive with minor things that could possibly make the seller be like, on to the next, because they will definitely probably have a next that they can go to. So I talk about all that in last week's video, so the link to that video is in the description box. And as always, my Calendly is also in the description box if you want to schedule a quick consultation to pick my brain and for me to kind of expand on these concepts and answer any unique questions that you may have for your situation. I am totally open to do that. Also, you can text or email me. That information is down below. Anything, any way you want to contact me, I'm happy to answer any questions you have. So, but that's all I have for today, y'all. Much love, take care, and I'll talk to you later.